everybody, and welcome to Hanukkah Erotica Book Club. I'm Razel, and I'm joined by my co-host and stepsister and Reiki healer, Malia.
Thank you. Thank you for
Reiki energy healer.
Introducing me thoroughly as I ought to be. Yes, it is I.
We're here in our first episode of season 2 of Hanukkah Erotica Book Club.
Awesome. Happy 2024.
Happy New Year. Happy 2024 to you and to our listeners. So the last time we were together was our live event.
I know. I'm still on a high from it, to be honest.
I am too.
Anytime anyone says anything to me about it, I just say, like, I had so much fun. I just had fun.
I had such a good time, and I have so much to say about it. I had such a good time. I had such a great time with you. William was so awesome.
The best.
The vibes were so good. The crowd was so good. The store, Leah,
It all came together.
One thing is that also everyone who came who's listening to this episode, thank you so much for being there. It was just really very special for us, and we're so really honored that you were there.
We're so honored. When Rachel got to the store before me, and when you texted me, you were like 55 tickets sold. My jaw dropped. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it.
It ended up being 60 something.
Insane.
Wait, here's the thing. Like, I obviously didn't know everybody, and neither did you. But I will never know if the people I didn't know were people you knew, or if there were people who are just fans or just heard about the event.
I know. I felt the same way. I feel like there must have been. Just from seeing who you were talking to and knowing who I knew, I think that listen, I think in the Venn diagram of that event, most people knew one of us personally, but I do think there was that one woman who came up to us and said she had just heard about the event.
Yes. There were some people who were new.
I think there were people who just liked the work, which is
so cool.
So cool. And I don't know why, but it felt very significant to me also that we got that swag box of like whatever that was, like sexual
period products.
Yeah. Yes. Like that felt like very legitimizing to me. Like I felt that bumped us up to another level.
Yeah, it bumped us up getting like a box of something from a brand that wanted to advertise during our event. Yes,
totally. And I felt like the food setup was excellent.
The food setup was excellent. So for people who weren't there, you probably listened in our last episode, but we set up like a full kiddush, after shul kiddush.
Yes.
Platter of cookies as promised, but Malia went really hardcore with the herring.
There were 4 types of herring. They really got eaten, Rachel. Like herring there was a significant dent in that herring.
Okay, but back to Venn diagrams and the people who ate the herring, like it was it's like mostly people who grew up with herring, but then the best that made me I loved is that Shari, my childhood best friend, who's a listener and who came and was just so happy to be there, she's like, I tried it for the first time. Like, Malia, you're opening. Yes.
Oh my God, that's so heartwarming. Wow.
Yes.
I introduced someone to herring.
Yeah, wow. And the other thing I noticed, which I had heard before, but, because people listen to us and some of them know me, some of them know you, some of them know neither of us, but because we're in their ears having these conversations, I think they feel like they know us, like we're a part of their kind of little world, which is so cool. Totally. So some people were like putting a face to a name for me, putting a face to a name for you. It was just so nice.
Yeah,
it was so nice.
They were like, I feel like I know you. I know. Which I was like, I feel like I know you too. Like the fact that you came out here. I don't know. I felt connected to everybody.
Me too. I'm also what an amazing store. I mean, I told you I wanted to go to the LA store since 2016 and never made it, but so gorgeous and just so intentional, and I just loved it.
I think you said it was great. It was just good vibes, like nice, fun energy, like just the perfect energy for us. I just felt like fun, a little, a little indie, a little, I don't know.
I felt very understood.
Yes, totally. It felt like the perfect setting.
Yeah, I felt very understood. Like almost the opposite of, do you remember how I told you, like in the Danny Bergman interview, I felt like she sort of was like, who are these old ladies? Like she just didn't, I didn't feel understood by her. And she may have felt
Yeah.
misunderstood by us too, although I felt that I got her, but she didn't. This was the exact opposite of that. Like I felt very at home.
Totally. We were in the right place. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even though we were wandering around, because we got there early, we were wandering around just having our own commentary on the books that were there. I feel like I could have done that for another hour with you. It was just like a fun to browse.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure.
Oh,
So
also,
thank
and
you
a
to the
funny,
Repotis. Yeah.
thank you so much to the Repotis. They were so welcoming. And just a funny follow-up is that, so our parents were guests of honor at the podcast live event, obviously. And then the next week, we went to visit them, and they had the whole theme of our visit was like the aftermath of the live event, because we got there, we were gonna have like a meal, and your mom was like, Abba put a little present for you on your dinner plate. And I was like, oh, and I go in, and there's a little box, and inside of it was, my dad got dreidel earrings for me.
Oh, that is
Remember how
so
I said
cute.
I said at the event there was a character who was wearing dreidel earrings in 8 Kinky Nights, and I was saying I thought that I had a pair of dreidel earrings that I was looking for and I couldn't find them.
That's so cute. He did better than me, because I was thinking that from next Hanukkah for you, but that was so cute.
He jumped the gun there. And then when they brought out like lunch or whatever we were having, they had bought like 3 different kinds of herring.
They're cute. They had a great time.
They had a great time. And then, of course, I brought the herring leftovers home, so I'm slowly working my way through that.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yeah.
No, it was really, really fun and great. A lot of my colleagues came, and I was, at work, I was sort of just like debriefing every few minutes. I'd be like, oh, wow. I mean, you think when you have a great experience like that, you sort of are processing it. Like you said, like you still feel on a high from it. So do I. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there and I was like, wow, William's apron. And my colleague goes, no notes.
It's true. Cannot improve on perfection.
It's really, that apron was really great. It was
a good touch.
So good. It was really a good touch. So yeah, thank you for everyone for being there, and for everyone who got to listen and join via Instagram. And it was just so much fun. And we'll be back next Hanukkah.
Oh yeah, they've already.
By the way, we haven't even touched on like the actual book of 8 Kinky Nights, but I actually think it ended up being a great pick for this event.
Totally. When I started it, I was a little nervous, to be honest with you. I was like, this is a big departure for us. I don't really know how we're going to sort of figure out how to talk about all these things like sort of artfully, but it worked.
I felt the same way. I was truly nervous, and it was too late actually to pivot, because all of the, marketing and everything that went out.
Right.
Although I will say, not a single person in attendance read it, so maybe it would have been fine, but I'm so glad we didn't.
Right.
I'm so glad we didn't change the plan. It went really well. My favorite thing, though, was that our friend Aaron's reaction and listener was like, wow, you're really going to have to step it up. This was a great book. Do you remember he said it that night? Yes. What are you going to do about the next episode? You're really going to have to step it up. This was just such an amazing book. It had so many layers. Like, he was so funny. I was like, we don't write these books. Like, we're not in control. Plus, Zan West died. Like, we can't, like, we're not going to get another. And then my mom also, because I had said in 8 Kinky Nights, like, I actually would love to have a book on each of the different characters and their relationships and lives. Like, I would have loved a series out of this. My mom's like, maybe you should write the series. It's not impossible. Sometimes there's full series written after authors die. I'm like, Mom, I'm not writing Zan West's series sequel to 8 Kinky Nights. Like, Zan West's vision was not me writing the sequel.
Probably not. That's really cute. I know. And also our friend, it was a great cover. Our friend Daniela came up to me afterward, and she was like, I feel I might be autistic after having listened to that conversation. She was like, I do all that. She's like, I like velvet blankets. We were going through in the live event, these characters who identified as autistic and the things they do to sort of settle themselves. And she was like, I think I am this. So we were really,
we might be helping people with their own diagnoses.
People are discovering herring. They're discovering, new identities. It's just, we're opening up new worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And my attraction to Jordan, the character in the books, also got me thinking lately. That character was just very sexy too. I mean, again, like I said, I think they were both beautiful and very sexy. But I was very attracted to Jordan, and I just, been thinking about that. Been thinking about those couplings. That's all I'll say.
Interesting. Okay, well, listen, it's season 2, Rachel.
Season
we
2.
can explore new vistas here.
Okay, great. So that was awesome. And I can't wait for next year.
Same.
Can't wait.
Totally.
Okay, so before we dive into today's book, we also haven't been able to debrief Snowbound in Her Boss's Bed. And I wanted to quickly do that with you before we dive in, because Mal, I think it was our best episode.
I totally agree. I think it got a really positive reaction. I think everybody felt like that was our last pre-recorded episode of the first season. I think we went out on a high.
I do too. I laughed so much. First of all, William's sound effects.
They've gotten really good.
Next level.
They really were.
Mitch goes, "Is William taking too many liberties with the sound?" I said, I don't think so. I loved the sound effects, the snowstorm. Yes.
And also there was our theme song is the instrumental version of the Hanukkah song that William wrote, Left to Right, Pass the Candle. And for that last episode, he put in the full vocal version with the singer and everything. So that was sort of like a grand conclusion, I guess. A grand conclusion
and a Hanukkah celebration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, so I loved that. I loved this. That episode, I loved so much, but Marcella Bell, the author, also loved the episode. And I was so touched and moved, and I wanted to share what she said about the episode.
Yeah, so you have to read it, please.
I'm going to read it. She said, "I loved it. 2 exclamation points. Thank you so much for reading Snowbound and for seeing it so clearly. It was delightful to listen to you experience a Harlequin Presents." I guess the type of Harlequin it was a Harlequin Presents. Right. I don't think you necessarily intended to, but you ended up highlighting every feature of the Presents promise to the readers. The over-the-top to the point of fantasy use of tropes, the outrageous hero, the intense just cause insta-love, and the get into it heat. And validating me in the process too. Listening to you describe the plot reminded me of all the videos going around about Save the Last Dance, and I was cracking up. It was so great to hear more about your nonprofit experience and how that wove into your read. Ha ha ha, thanks for noticing budget business attire. One of my favorite things about listening was feeling like my sense of humor was seen and heard. Category romance is more prescriptive than general romance fiction, so one of the ways I keep it fun is by trying to challenge myself to see how much not traditionally present stuff I can get away with fitting into the prescription. I originally had more of Ben and Mary actually working together, but had to cut it out because, as my editor reminded me, a Presents is about escaping regular life. I'm smiling now as I type, thinking about all the little things you caught. He was totally Batman. The podcast really pumped me up about the story. It's one of my favorite Presents that I've written, but it's also my lowest selling one by far, and as you saw, the reviews for it were ... weird. Though, side note, in explanation for the Weird Books review, some people purchase packs of 4 or 8 Presents per month, but the Amazon reviews show under all versions, so that person was reviewing the whole set of 4 that I was in. The reasons behind that are unfortunately probably the reasons one might assume, and that sucks, but hearing you talk about it and positively witness all the little things I was trying to do brightened my heart and inspired me to do another Jewish Presents. You're who I wrote this book for, and I'm so grateful, so grateful it found you. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for getting my jokes, the quiet and the loud ones. Thank you for creating space for diverse Jewish identities. I appreciate your appreciation and space for Jewish by choice folks, and thank you for affirming the representation. Wow.
That is like the nicest letter I ever got in my life, possibly.
That's how I feel.
I don't even know what to say.
I feel that way too.
First of all, every sentence of that was just so nice, and I feel like that and meeting and the live event are the highlights, I feel, of this whole podcast. Like, having authors write like that to us is amazing.
I know.
What also a dream. Love total dream. I really like the idea that there are these like sort of rules for how to write different types of romances. Like, on the one hand, that seems sort of goofy, but on the other hand, it's kind of fun. I like the idea. I can imagine as an author, it's sort of like a fun exercise to be like, okay, here are these rules. How can I create something unique within them?
Exactly. And the thing is, I appreciate this was an education for us because we're new here. And it's like, I love this idea that it has to be like over the top, an intense hero, all these things. And I kind of always had this perception, like, who were writing these wacky books? But it's like, actually just regular, quirky, fun, interesting people are writing these books, but they have to follow this prescription because that's actually what the readers want. That's what sell books, and that's what the publishers are asking for.
Right. And then
It's just
maybe by them sneaking in their own little quirky bits, it's slowly kind of like shifting the readership at the same time.
right.
Which is interesting.
Totally. Totally. But yeah, no, that's why he was Batman, because he was Batman.
I know. He was Batman. Like, when do you ever get an author where you have like a thought like that and they're like, yes, he was Batman. And I'm like, oh my God. That's just such a fun experience as a reader that you never get.
I know. I can't believe we're in all these authors' ears and inboxes, and it's just so fun. So I wanted to talk to you about Snowbound and the
sorry, go on.
No, you go first.
I wanted to say my mom, who was like an OG Jewish communal worker, like she worked for the Jewish Federation like in the 70s, listened to that episode and really liked it. And she said she related to it because she thinks like back in the day, there were like shenanigans going on between like Jewish professionals and funders all the time. And it was much more sort of just like accepted and, you know, regular. And now it's of course more sort of taboo and pushed under the rug for obvious and I think overall good reasons. But, you know, she feels like that was pretty rampant back in the day.
Okay,
so that was just interesting. Yeah.
I also got feedback from one of our top listeners, Jonathan, who basically has his own segment in this podcast because it's like, what did Jonathan think?
Jonathan.
But he was like, disagree about people in Jewish nonprofits not dressing up. He's like thinking about all the UJA girls and their kind of like pencil skirts and corporate attire, like in the development department. And I was like, that's true. A blouse and a skirt in the development department, sure.
Totally. Some heels. Some heels with like that big Tory Burch like insignia.
Yes. Like 15 years ago, dressed up. So I think it depends on the nonprofit.
Totally. It's a big world, so there's room for many. I have more of that like Jewish studies department vision, but I hear what he's saying.
Totally. Me too. But it was a blast, and I'm excited to get into our next book.
Me too. This is okay. I'm ready.
Okay, so we did Unorthodox Love by Heidi Shertock.
Yes.
For today, and I can't wait to talk to you about it.
Me too. I have a lot to say.
I'm sure you do. So this is a book about Penina.
Yes.
She's a 29-year-old Orthodox girl from the Midwest.
Yep.
And she works as a jeweler, or works at a jeweler.
In a jewelry store?
She works in a jewelry store. I don't know.
She's not a jeweler. Like, she's not setting
right. She
rings
works in a jewelry store.
Right.
Has a big family, close family, and spends also an amount of time volunteering at the NICU holding babies.
Right.
Which comes up quite a bit.
Right.
She's also a fashion blogger on Instagram. She's a fashion influencer on Instagram from fashion.
Modest fashion. Yeah.
Modest fashion. That's what I mean. And thank you. And she has a little bit of a following from other cultures that are not just Jewish cultures dressing modestly, which I think is interesting.
Right.
So that's a little bit of background. She is getting set up on shidduch dates.
Yep.
And it's not going great for her. One reason she really attributes that to is that she knows that she's not able to carry a child and have a child.
Right.
She's infertile.
Right.
And that seems to be, for her, a big reason why she hasn't been able to marry. I don't know if that's true or not. But that's her.
That she wouldn't be able to marry that she would be like not desirable in the Orthodox community if people knew she was infertile.
But like, would the matchmaker have to tell him? Like, is she telling these dates? Like, is that why she's just not even getting? Because she's getting. Oh no, the matchmaker knows. I'm sorry, I'm correcting myself. The matchmaker knows, and is also saying really nasty things to her. Like, you should be so lucky to go on this date with this 60-year-old toothless man. You hot 29-year-old. You stunning 29-year-old.
It is sort of weird. Okay, first of all, I don't obviously. That's the background. That's the background. Yes, right. I guess. Yeah. First of all, I don't want to minimize, of course, infertility and all the various ways that it manifests, but I felt like it wasn't entirely clear to me that the infertility they were describing made sense completely.
Like anatomically?
Anatomically, like they mentioned at different times, like it was diagnosed, quote unquote, when she was a teenager. She said she doesn't get her period because her uterus is she has some condition where her uterus is too small. It just
I
didn't
don't know
all
enough.
hang together to me. I don't know enough, but it seemed a little thin there
I don't
on
know enough. I don't know
the
enough. I'm gonna ping my dear friend Jenny O from college, who's an OBGYN, before,
Oh, great.
in the next at some point, hard to reach her
Okay.
sometimes. I'm gonna ping her,
Sure.
see if there's any clarity we can get on this. Obviously, there's people who can't carry, there's people who
Of
can't
course,
conceive,
of
there's people,
course.
we know there's infertility issues. Um,
Yes.
but again, as it comes up in the book, not being able to conceive doesn't necessarily mean you can't parent.
Of course.
And
Of
so,
course.
that comes up too.
Right.
But in the Orthodox world, I can see how, if it's true, I don't know if you're right about whether or not anatomically this, story felt a little bit implausible. That part, I don't
Right.
know. I
Yeah.
just
Okay.
don't know.
Right.
But let's say it was true.
Sure.
I could see how this could be a big issue.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think the book did a good job of painting that. Like, Penina has an older sister who has a bunch of little kids. Like, the expectation is you're getting married to be fruitful and multiply. So I can imagine if you can't do that, there's gonna be people who are not gonna be interested. I don't know if it's gonna be to the extreme degree that this book portrays it. Like, she's literally being set up with, like, serial killers. Like, I don't know. It just seems like it's really the dregs that she's getting. And it seems like she's pretty awesome in every way. And also the book makes it a point of stating how hot she is, like, many, many times.
She's gorgeous. She is a fashion influencer with great clothes. By the way, the outfits that were described in the book, I was not so into.
Right.
There were just, I don't know. I like color. There was just something about what was going on. So much Navajo red. Is Navajo red even something we could say anymore? I don't know. There was just so much Navajo red.
Did it say Navajo red? That's funny.
She loved Navajo red. And,
okay.
And I mean, I love red too. I don't know. There was something about the way her outfits were described that I wasn't so sure, but they were they were great. They were trendy.
She had
beautiful.
A lot of Instagram followers.
Yep. And not only this, by the way, she's a very good person, loves helping people. She's the kind of person who, if she parks her car and sees that a woman's having a hard time, literally is seen in the book, like hard time finding her parking spot, she'll stop whatever she's doing to help a stranger, with their groceries, find their car, just a very, very good person.
Right. It's an issue in the book that, like, when customers come into this jewelry store, if she sees that they're, like, down or seem sad, she'll, like, the selling the jewelry comes second, and first she's, like, talking to them about their problems and trying to cheer them up and make them feel good about themselves. Like, you know, so she's really like that Midwestern girl. And also it says, like, you look like, multiple people tell her she looks like Gal Gadot also. Like,
right.
There's a lot of comparison to Gal Gadot. I guess we haven't read a book like this where the book itself is, like, referencing how beautiful the character is so much.
Right. I think that's true. We haven't. Right. It's often coming mostly, whatever we know is coming from their perception of themselves, and this is coming from outside.
Right.
She doesn't feel as gorgeous as everyone else thinks she is.
No, she's pretty down to earth, but right, you're getting a lot of that imagery. I also thought that the way that these loser dudes that she's set up with are depicted was actually very funny.
Yeah, like the guy who kept FaceTiming his mom during the date.
The guy who FaceTimed his mom during the date and was like, I really am at my dream is for my mom and my wife to be living together.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny too. I could have used more bad dates.
The mom baked brownies on that date, and the brownies had some mystery ingredient in it that I thought you would have thought was particularly disgusting. I forget what it was. It was like sour,
mayonnaise or something?
Like mayonnaise was like the secret ingredient in the brownies, and I was like, oh, Rachel's gonna have a hard time with this one.
Yeah, it's like first chapter of already, dry heaving.
They lost you at mayonnaise. But yeah, she's also dry heaving, like trying to eat these brownies with mayonnaise. Like, the mom is on FaceTime. It was funny. I thought it was legitimate. I thought it was funny.
I do too. I do too. Okay, so this is what's going on with Penina. She's getting set up on these bad dates. She has this close family, but a couple of things kind of happen at once. It's like a perfect storm. Her sister's going to lose her house.
Right.
Her sister's house. She's
Right.
gutted over this and feels like she needs to figure out a solution to help her sister and the house. There's financial trouble.
Yep.
Okay, that's pillar one. Pillar two, one day at the NICU, a super hot guy kind of walks through with a group of board members or something like that, like a benefactor to the
Yes. To the hospital. Right. Right.
And they have kind of like an instant she feels something right away.
Yeah. She's attracted.
She's attracted to him right away. And then like soon after he comes into the jewelry store, he's like the new boss, the owner of this jewelry store, Kleinfeld's, which confused me because Kleinfeld's Bridal.
Yeah. That is confusing.
Okay. So Kleinfeld's the owner, gives the store to his son. It's the hot guy from the hospital, her new boss, Sam Kleinfeld. And like the first couple of times that she meets him, he sort of like misunderstands what's happening and what she's saying. She's like having small talk with the girls at the hospital. And it's like something weirdly sexual, not coming from her, coming from someone else who just, a nurse, a NICU nurse.
Yes.
He thinks she's talking about it. Weird kind of first introduction. Then when he walks in on her at the jewelry store, like meets her at the jewelry store, he kind of overhears another sort of like,
right, like she calls her like friend who's her coworker like some kind of like funny, sexy name, and he thinks she's talking to him.
Right, like a sex pot, but she doesn't even know what it means.
Right.
And she's a virgin who's literally never been touched. Like, she's not just like a sex virgin. Like, I don't think she's held a hand, kissed. Like, she has no experience. And she's not Orthodox and like faking it in her 20s. She cares deeply.
Yeah. She's totally committed. She never considers leaving Orthodoxy at any point in this book.
No, she cares deeply. She's observant. It's a huge part of who she is. And so he keeps kind of like getting the wrong idea about her in the first couple of times they meet. And her perception of him is that he's very attractive, but also like not a nice guy.
Right, kind of cold, kind of snobby. Right.
So that's the second main thing, is that she's attracted to this guy who's her boss, but he's not getting the right idea about her, and she thinks he's a dick. Excuse my language. Yep. And then the third thing that happens is that the Shadchan wants to set her up with this guy Zevi, who she says no to a few times. But the Shadchan's like, it's so crazy he would even go out with you. He's a gazillionaire. Like, the Shadchan is abusive.
The Shadchan's insane. Like, how is she the Shadchan? She's like Yenta from Fiddler on the Roof. I mean, she's worse than that. She's like, she makes no sense that she exists.
I completely agree. If there's a real Shadchan like that out there, I would love to know.
That's the thing also about this book. Wait, where is it in the Midwest? It's like Minneapolis or something like that. It makes it feel a little bit like they're living in like the Arctic tundra. Like, it's like, I get that it's a small town. It's not New York, but it's like, it makes it seem like, all right, it's Minneapolis. It's the one Shadchan we have. Like, what do? We have to go with her. But it's like, come on. Like, it's, there's the internet. There's like, come on. Like, it's a big world out there. It feels a little like shtetl-y sort of, in a way that, I don't know. I don't know what the Minneapolis Jewish community is actually like. But that seemed sort of, again, not so believable. There's even one point where Penina's younger sister, who's like about to reach matchmaking age, is literally like physically hiding from the Shadchan, like ducking under tables, because the Shadchan is like walking around trying to find her and connect, like set her up with somebody.
Right.
And that's how fearful everyone is. Yet at the same time, she's like the Shadchan for everyone in the community. So it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense. But
very funny. But also horrible, because she's like actually mean to Penina, who we love. So, so she's like, Zevi, he's stunning. He's a businessman from New York. He's a gazillionaire. Right. I don't even know why he wants to go out with you, but he does. You have to meet him. You have to meet him. And I don't know if at this point it's because of her sister's house and she's thinking about the money, or if that doesn't come till later, but she decides to go meet him.
Yeah.
And she goes to meet Zevi. And immediately, Zevi's stunning. And she's like, you're beautiful, and you have beautiful wolf eyes, and Zev means wolf. I didn't realize Zev meant wolf. What a hot name. I didn't know it meant wolf. I love the name. I've always loved the name. Wolf. Yum. What a
Wolf.
great name.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was a
yeah.
great name before I even knew that. Anyway, she's like, um,
And he also dresses, I feel like it describes him dressing like very hip.
yeah, I think she liked that too because she's really
Yeah.
into clothes and fashion. So that was
Right.
attractive to her. And they actually like kind of get along, click for the first couple minutes of their meeting. And then he's like, I have to tell you something. There's someone I want you to meet. I want you to meet my
Right.
boyfriend.
Weep womp.
She's like, she's like, she doesn't understand what's
What?
going on. And she's like, no,
Right.
like, you have the wrong girl. And he's
Right.
like, I don't think we do. And she's like, no, like, I'm not interested in any of what you have to say. And then he proposes a fake marriage. He's like, my mom is dying.
Right.
She's Orthodox.
Right.
I can't
Right.
let her die without her seeing me happily married.
Right.
Everything about the marriage will be real. She's like, everything? He's like, well, everything. She's like, everything? He's like, well, everything but that. But we'd
Right.
get married, we'd have a wedding, you'd live here, we'd live together, we'd be married, and we just need to do this until my mom dies. And by the way, you set the price because I'm going to pay you for this fake marriage. And
Right.
she's like,
I can pay you anything. Money's no
I
object,
could pay
basically.
you anything. She goes, $5 million. He says,
Right.
done. And she's like, I'm going to save my sister's house by marrying gay Zevi.
Right. And have money enough for myself, or I can, I don't know, live the rest of my life as like a quiet spinster, which is probably what I'll do after this fake marriage dissolves. I think is kind of her perception of herself.
Right. I think that's what she thinks. I will save Libby's house. I will have financial freedom.
Yep.
And I think that she has this vision that she's not going to meet anyone. She's not going to parent. She's not going to do these things anyway.
Right.
And she's just kind of like, fuck it. I'm here. This is what this is.
Might as well have a bunch of money to show for it. Yeah.
Okay. What'd you think about all that?
I found it very entertaining. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, the whole plot is sort of insane. It like just makes no sense. Like, really, why would any of this be happening?
Wait, one thing I did love though is that this is like written as like such a kind of like mainstream rom-com, but unapologetically Jewish.
Oh yeah, Judaism is like, it's the main focal point. This is not like some, a mention of bagels or of shul on one scene. It's like the whole thing pivots around people's perceptions of Judaism and living out Jewish lives, I guess. Although, I don't know. I guess I wonder, like, what is this really, like, why would he, it just seems so obviously silly that, like, he would, first of all, why is he going to pay someone $5 million to do this? Like, surely he could just get someone to marry him for free or for, like, a lot less than $5 million.
But you think, like, the picture perfect Orthodox girl? No.
Maybe not, but, like, is she the picture perfect Orthodox girl, Penina? I guess you're saying because she's pretty? But she's
a good person.
Yeah. But I guess I wonder, like, does the mother know? Does anyone else know that she's infertile? Because the Shadchan obviously knows, and Zevi obviously knows. He doesn't care. But, like,
I don't know. I don't know.
Like,
who? Because that's the thing. Like, whose business is it? I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how it works in the matchmaking world.
Right. Like, would this news travel to anybody else? Right. And then I guess I just think beyond that, like, I guess I just wonder how realistic this is. Like, I guess I feel like we all know in the Orthodox world, we all know men who we suspect, may have.
Yeah, there's beards,
or men who are perennially single, who it seems perhaps might be gay, but do any of them really feel the sense of, like, I must get married at all costs before my mother dies or it'll break her heart? It just seems very sort of
right. Because what's
like
funny
extreme.
here when Penina meets the mom, because spoiler alert, she agrees to it, but we'll get back to that because that's while she's simultaneously falling in love with Sam Kleinfeld. So we'll put a pin in that. We'll go back to that.
Yep.
But she ends up going to the hospital to visit Zevi's mom, and the mom's kind of like, but don't you realize that Zevi's, and she's like, huh? What do you mean? I love Zevi. Zevi's so sexy. He has wolf eyes.
Right.
He's a lovely guy. We both love shopping, and I can't wait to spend my life with him. And she's like, kind of like, honey, my husband, my son's a fagala.
Right. Right. She doesn't overtly say that, but she's definitely like,
she knows,
gesturing to that. She knows. It's clear she knows.
She knows. No, she doesn't say it outright, but she knows.
Just the fact that Zevi would be so oblivious to that and be so off base about what his mom wants for him, to the point that he's willing to pay someone $5 million for a sham wedding, just seems silly.
But maybe a fun book.
A really fun book. Yeah. I guess I just wonder, do these situations really exist? Like, I'm sure listen, people have all kinds of sexual identities, and I don't, it doesn't have to be either or. Like, people can have a happy marriage,
Of course.
People can have a happy marriage and also find a character like Jordan.
Yeah, I could be happily married and monogamous with Mitch and also be attracted to Jordan in a book.
Absolutely. And that's all cool. But the point is, I just wonder, like, are there religious men who are having frank conversations like this with religious women, just sort of like, not necessarily proposing $5 million payouts, but just being like, listen, we're both in this community. You're not getting any younger. Maybe you're not the most desirable in the Shadchan's little handbook. Marry me. We'll have a nice life. Maybe I'm more attracted to men, but whatever. No one's perfect. Let's just give it a whirl. Like, are people having frank conversations like this?
Or are they just faking it?
Right. Are they just faking it? Yeah. And then just, trying to make it work the best they can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious.
Me too.
I have no way to know.
I don't have any data points.
But if anyone does, I'm very curious for some data points.
Yes, if anyone has any intel on this, we would like to know. So
I'm curious.
Okay, so she says yes. She's moving ahead with Zevi. By the way, Zevi lives in New York City, so she's like flying back and forth. We did mention that. Okay.
Yep.
And then simultaneously, she's developing this relationship with Sam, who is secular. He's Jewish. He is completely secular, but also to the point of like having no idea about what Orthodox Jews practice. Like they're getting to know each other more and more. And he's like also creating like random situations where he has to be alone with her, like not intimate at all, but I mean, they connect on these things, but like he's like, get in the car. We have to go do research at another jewelry store. And she's like, why me? And it's, I mean, obviously we find out towards the end of the book, it's because he's been in love with her this whole time. He's been trying to get to know her and get to know her and get to know her. But he's like creating all these situations where at one point he's like recommended a book and he could just go get it. He like shows up at her house. He was like, I don't know where the bookstore is. She's like, do you know what Google is? Can you just put it into maps?
Right.
He's like, I need you to take me to this bookstore right now.
Right. Is this like the enemies to lovers trope? Because in the beginning, I don't know, like you sort of find out in the end that he hasn't considered her an enemy. He's had a crush on her all along. But for her, I think at the beginning, she's like, that Sam Kleinfeld, like what a jerk. Like also he's acting sort of grumpy, like, like he brings her on these fake engagement rings hunts to scope out the jewelry store competition. But he's also kind of like, hurry up and like, come on. I don't know. He's just sort of like acting grumpy and she's like, why are you a jerk? Like, I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of that before she finally comes to see him as a friend.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah, maybe we can call it enemies to lovers.
I don't know.
I'd be curious what Heidi Shertock thinks.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also at the same time, she is under the impression that he's dating this like sexy doctor at the hospital where she volunteers.
Right.
Because
Kayla.
There's like, yes.
Kayla, a Victoria's Secret model doctor.
Victoria's Secret model doctor who's always on Facebook, like doing a crazy yoga pose or like, I don't know, saving a rainforest or like, she just seems like Superwoman and she's dating, Penina thinks she's dating Sam.
Right. But if she is, it's even weirder how Sam's acting, and she kind of knows that.
Right, because Sam sort of is making it more and more clear that he's into her.
At one point, they're at a gala, and
I was going to bring this up too.
At one point, they're at this gala for the hospital,
Right.
And this guy kind of comes up to her and starts being like, let's go down to this bar. There's a bar downstairs. Let me go buy you a drink. And she's like, no. And I thought it was funny because she has an inner monologue that's like, no, A, there'd be nothing kosher there except beer, and B, I'm not interested in you. And I thought that was funny to have like these two inner monologues, like, you're a creep, but also there's not a single kosher thing I can have there except a beer, so absolutely not.
Totally. And she sees the whole world like that. Like, she's always sort of calculating, like, how could she fit her religious, requirements into whatever situation she's in.
Yeah. Like, I remember on her date with Yoav, the guy who FaceTimed his mom, she was like, I had an iced decaf because coffee's the only kosher thing here. Okay, so she's like talking to this, and then Sam kind of comes over and does that thing where like you pretend you're someone's boyfriend or girlfriend to like make the other person back off. But while he does it, he like holds her wrist or like rubs circles along her wrist or back or like touches her in a way she's literally never been touched before, like very intimate. To like stay.
I think like a man has never touched her before. Like she's like
she's like about to pass out. It feels so good. He sort of like puts his arm. Was it her wrist? I feel like inner circles on her inner wrist or something like that. Like
that sounds right.
So sexy. She was like, she was so into it, but he was doing it, to obviously get the guy away, but also because again he loves her,
right,
and wants to be close to her. But anyway. Her parents are the kind of parents who like always have their Shabbat meals, but love to invite the random secular Jew. Like that picture is painted from the get-go, which I like.
Totally.
I know those people.
They're always making food like in large quantities, like just prepping for guests.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at one point, she's on the phone with him, and her mom's like, put him on the phone. Invite him for Shabbat dinner. She's like, no. And she's like, put him on the phone. So Sam is invited to Shabbos dinner at her parents' house, and he has this kind of like beautiful experience, and they get along well. And I like where the mom was like, "How do you like your balls?" And Penina's just humiliated. She's like, "Mom," it's like, "What?" She's like, "How do you like your balls?" She's like, "My mom calls matzo balls." She needs to stop.
They do portray, like, there's a really nice portrayal of the family that, again, is like a little stereotype. Like, I think that Heidi Shertak is like poking at some of these Jewish stereotypes for humor, but not in an over-the-top way where it becomes sort of like negative. Like, I feel like this is a really positive portrayal of a family that's like a little uncouth, a little disorganized, a little like all up in each other's business and sort of loud, but also just like really loving and endearing. And you could see how someone like Sam would be like really charmed and just like taken by the whole thing.
Totally. Yeah. A lot of love there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But so, I like to always bring up like kind of like Jewish terms or Jewish things that come up in books. I mean, honestly, there's so many in this book. It's almost impossible to even go through them because it was so full and rich of Jewish tradition, expressions, things we haven't even seen in books before. But there's
also, I read the audiobook and the reader kept saying ch as ch, and it was really throwing me off.
Yeah, I read it and listened, and it was like chasva, chalila.
Yes. Over and over. It was so fun. L'chaim.
I was like, could someone do a listen, like an edit before they release this?
Yeah. Come on, L'chaim. I mean, please.
I know.
They should have caught that.
I know.
But it was funny.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard there was something in this book that I have literally never heard before. An expression.
Oh.
What? Fry out. Like, I know the term
I've heard
flip
that.
out. So what is the term fry out?
Well, fry is not from. Like if you're fry. So fry means free, but it means like you're not from. I think it's like usually referred to someone who goes like off the derech. Like,
right.
You've probably heard off the derech,
yes,
which
OTD.
means someone who was from, right, OTD. I think it's like if you fry out, it's the same thing as you went you're OTD.
Yeah, so I've never heard it.
Yeah, it's like, that's pretty, I've only heard, like, I feel like that's like a Yiddish speaking circles. Like, I feel like they said that in my my Gan Yisrael camp that I went to, like in Morristown back in the day as like a little kid, it's like a Chabad thing. That's the only context that I've heard it.
So yeah, this is the context that comes up in the book. Sam says, do you think, he says hesitatingly, that an Orthodox woman would be okay dating someone secular, or is that completely out of the question? He sort of does this a lot where he's trying to like figure out,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like feel
These
her out. And,
hypotheticals.
exactly.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
always having, he has a lot of friends. Out of the question, I reply automatically, unless she wants to fry out. Fry out, he repeats with raised eyebrows. So he doesn't know obviously what she's talking about. But that was the first time I ever heard that term. I figured out what it meant, but
that is
never heard it.
Sure. Yeah, it's obscure.
So, and then other things that I thought, like, they were sitting around the Shabbat table, and they were taught, what's the expression about, like, building a marriage, like a strong something in Hebrew?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Binyan Adead.
Right, something like that. Like, these we have not seen these in
Was
books.
that in the book?
Something.
That was in the book, that phrase?
Something about a strong, is there another term?
Bayit Ne'eman B'Yisrael.
That sounds more familiar.
Wait, was it a Hebrew term?
Yeah, Hebrew term. Something about a relationship and a strong marriage, or like a building.
Yeah, Binyan Adead, I think. Well, I don't
I'll
know.
look for it.
I don't remember that in the book.
But yeah, no, there was a lot there. Then there was this other thing I really wanted to talk to you about, which is that a pregnancy test is found at one point.
Oh, yes. I wanted to mention this too. Yes. And at first, and it's like unclear whose pregnancy test this was. At first, Penina thinks it's her older sister who already has, I think, like 4 or 5 kids. Like, maybe she's having another one. Then she thinks it's her younger sister who's like 19, is like pregnant out of wedlock. Like her frum sister is like pregnant.
But then there's also this conversation where it's like, the issue is that whoever's pregnant has had so many partners that they don't know who the father is. And here's the thing, like, I never want to kink shame. I never want to slut shame. Like, everyone can have as much sex as they want to have. No judgment from us. But how many sex partners have you had in like the short 4 days that you're ovulating? What?
That you wouldn't, right. That seems
Unless
extreme.
It's like a group scenario. Like, there's a few partners at one time. What is happening?
No, wait, but then cut to the end. The crazy part about all that is, like, ultimately it's discovered that the pregnancy test and the person who's had so many partners in a short time they don't know who the father is like their 13-year-old frum cousin.
Who literally didn't know who the partner was because there were so many
Who's
partners.
Literally like
a child.
13 or 14.
What?
Yes. And also they're like, the way that they act like, oh my God, like, you're 29 and unmarried, this is horrible. The fact of this 13-year-old getting pregnant and not knowing who her father is like a minor. They're like, oh, like, they're like, someone should get her some help. Oh yeah.
No,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
no. There's a crime case. There's a crime case. This isn't about help. Like, this, the law has been broken.
No, but they don't treat it like that. They treat it like,
know.
Oh wow, like that's kind of weird.
They like ship her off to boarding school.
I feel that they really underplay.
They do.
The craziness of that behavior. Yes.
Yes. It's not like she was provocative. Like, something really terrible happens. She's a child.
Right,
I agree.
Right. Something like that needs a lot more delving into than it receives here.
Totally. Anyway, so we could do a little bit of that delving, but TLDR, they want Penina to keep the baby. She decides that she's going to have this cousin.
Right.
Decides that she wants to have the baby, and Penina, who can't have her own, ends up being the parent to the baby with Sam, who she ends up marrying and falling in love with.
Sam, who like disappears for 3 months, comes back and has become frum.
Yeah, like, is that the ultimate like fantasy for a frum girl? Like, because we saw this again in like Shira's Secret or the Hayati Hirsch stuff. Like,
yes.
Like, is this
he
the
comes back and he's frum?
Yeah, like, he went to London. He hasn't reached her because they got in a huge fight about her marrying Zevi, and and then he comes back and he's not wearing a kippah yet, but he is keeping kosher and Shabbat. He's learned for 3 months from his friend who became frum.
Yeah, and he's like genuinely into it.
Yeah, he's like,
but also it all started because he loves her so much.
Yep. He loves her. He became...
Totally. I feel this is the religious girl's version of like, I don't know, the stereotype of like the commitment phobic guy who won't commit and then they break up and then like he comes back and comes to her door and is like, I love you, like I'm ready to be with you forever. I feel like this is the From Girls version of that. It's like, I love you, I'm willing to be with you forever, and I'm Shomer Shabbos. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, it's like,
it's so funny too
here.
because he's like, I'm not wearing a kippah yet, but I have one, and like her like, you know, inner monologue is like, the thought of that kippah on his head.
Totally. That kippah really puts her over the top, for sure. Yeah, so and then they're going to be parents together to this new little baby who's her, you know, cousin slash like going to be their kid.
Yep.
Very happy ending.
Very, very happy ending. And that's happening a little bit quicker after their wedding than they expected, but they're going for it. And that's...
whatever.
They love each other.
Right.
It is what it is.
Really
and,
sweet.
And he was pretty upset throughout the book about once he learns about the family purity laws about nida and mikveh and stuff. But
he was not into that.
His friend told him some of that's negotiable. It seems.
Is that what happened?
It seems like, it seems that someone told him some of that's negotiable and he felt a little more comfortable. Not like these laws are beautiful and I decided I'm going, you know, here's my kippah, I'm keeping kosher, I'm keeping Shabbat, and also can't wait for those 2 weeks each month where we can't touch each other. He said, no, some of it's negotiable, my friend said.
Negotiable. Who are you negotiating with also?
It's very funny.
That is funny. Right. He really did not. He questioned the whole premise that she was sort of putting forth of like, it helps keep things spicy if you have to refrain for 2 weeks.
Right.
He was sort of like, if you need to refrain for 2 weeks to keep things spicy, it's not all that spicy.
Right. So yeah, I had a blast with this one.
It was really fun. I thought she like used the Jewish stereotypes in just the right way, where it was like she like maximized them to be funny, but they weren't sort of offensive. They were just like sweet and cute and fun.
Right. I also like that she had a lot of friends and colleagues, well, mostly colleagues, like, but you know, relationships with secular people and people who aren't Jewish, and got along well with them. Like Shira from Shira's Secret was in a different category of like sheltered, religious kind of person.
Yeah, her whole world was people like her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Penina, you know, she's integrated, she's working, she has relationships with the NICU nurses, she has relationships at work at the jewelry store. And I think that's a good thing. Also, she's another character. Remember when I told you when I think that there's a lot of characters in romance books who are romance readers?
Yeah.
She's another one.
Yes. It mentions like, I forget who, does Sam find like books at her?
Yeah, when Sam went to her house to be like, we need to go to a bookstore, he starts finding books on her bookshelf and it's like The Earl and the Girl.
Right. They're all like cute romance novels, right? She likes those too. I like that. Yeah, those like self-references are very cute.
Yeah, Earls just want to have fun. He finds My Holiday Cowboy, and he finds How to Bet a Warrior Rough and Ready in her bookshelf.
Wow.
But I love that.
That's really cute. Yeah, she's figured out how to like navigate the like fry world and keep her Judaism, and she's very comfortable doing that. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, no, I think that I think this would be a great movie or series.
Yeah.
And
totally. Yeah, you could see them both being, I mean, they're both sort of like portrayed as like leading man and woman types.
Here's one thing though I would have liked a drop more of. Because I like Instagram and social media, I've read other books about influencers where there's like, you see the comment thread, like there's more of like an inner world of what's happening online for them.
Right.
I like that. Like, I like seeing the comments. I like the back and forth. I like seeing the relationships with the followers. Like, that just feels fun. Like, she's a whole influencer with, like, all these notifications and likes and things going on.
Right.
And
you didn't really get
a little, exactly. Right. I wanted more of that.
That would have been fun. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I would have wanted.
Especially because I feel like there could be a whole book about the world of, like, Orthodox modest fashion blogger, like
totally
just Orthodox influencers. I feel like that could be a great romance book. I don't know, two of them connecting or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a fun
There's a lot. There's a lot of
yeah.
lot out there.
It's
A lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good. It was great. I totally recommend it. Listen,
Me
I
too.
would say it's all a good listen, but you do have to be prepared that there's just some mispronunciation of Yiddish terms.
All those chs. Yeah. But I liked the person who read it overall. I thought it was, I looked forward to getting into my car and listening. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, no, I really liked it. I really liked it. And then I really liked reading it. So, okie dokie. That was Unorthodox Love by Heidi Chertoff.
Mm-hmm.
And Heidi, I hope, if you're listening, I hope you had fun listening. I hope you're listening. I don't know. I don't have a relationship yet. We don't have a relationship yet with Heidi.
We're open to it.
But we can't wait to hear, to listen to and read and talk about whatever you read next. Write next, whatever you write next. Okay, should we talk about what we're reading next?
Yes.
Okay, I cannot wait. We're reading a book called Sadie on a Plate by Amanda Elliott. Amanda Elliott's written 2 romance books. We have not read her before. And I think Stacey Agdern recommended Sadie on a Plate to us, or at least she recommended Amanda Elliott to us. But I'm so excited to read it. Let me read you the description.
Okay.
A chef's journey to success leads to discovering the perfect recipe for love in this delicious romantic comedy. Sadie is a rising star in the trendy Seattle restaurant scene. Her dream is to create unique, modern, and mouth-watering takes on traditional Jewish recipes. But after a public breakup with her boss, a famous chef, she is sure her career is over, until she lands a coveted spot on the next season of her favorite TV show, Chef Supreme. On the plane to New York, Sadie has sizzling chemistry with her seatmate Luke, but tells him that she won't be able to contact him for the next 6 weeks. They prolong their time together with a spontaneous, magical dinner before parting ways, or so she thinks. When she turns up to set the next day, she makes a shocking discovery about who Luke is. If Sadie wants to save her career by winning Chef Supreme, she's going to have to ignore the simmering heat between Luke and her. But how long can she do that before the pot boils over? Can't wait.
Sounds good.
Can't wait. I love Top Chef, and I can't wait. I can't wait to read this one.
Okay.
Chef Supreme.
Chef Supreme. Sounds good.
Okay, so this podcast is produced by William Levin. And like us and follow and leave us a review. We'd love more reviews.
That would be great.
So we hope you had fun time listening to our first episode of season 2. And we'll be back.
Yes.
We'll be back in 2 weeks with Sadie on a Plate. Bye, Mal.
Bye-bye.